Now, he changed before them, before his raiment. Don't rush to the raiment before you recognize that the changing of the raiment is a reaction to the changing of Jesus. That when you change, everything connected to you changes too. Yeah, yeah. You can't have a changing raiment if you don't have a changing Jesus. The clothes didn't make the man made the clothes. When the man changed, then the clothes changed. Everything that touched him changed because it was connected to him. And Jesus changed before their eyes. The Greek word is metamorpho. It is to go through a metamorphosis. It is me, but it's not me. I am the same, but I'm not the same. It's going to be familiar, but it's going to be different. You're going to recognize me, but you're not going to know me. Transfigured metamorphosis, to go from the silkworm to the butterfly, from the caterpillar to the frog. It is a change in me. Biologically, it is me, but it's not me. Genetically, it is me, but it's not me. Same DNA, but different presentation. Some people will stop you in the middle of your metamorphosis and not allow you to complete your turn. And when people meet you in the turn, they tend to define you by the twist, but they don't understand. Don't judge me yet, because I'm still spinning. 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 I'm still coming out of my grave clothes. I'm still wrestling with where I came from. I'm still becoming what he called me to. I'm still, is there anybody in here still spinning? Just spinning. I'm 40 and I'm spinning. I'm 50 and I'm still spinning. I thought it'd be over by now. I'm 55 years old, still spinning, coming out of my cocoon, finding my wings, figuring out that I could fly in this dimension where I crawled in that dimension. I am becoming. I am becoming. I have not become. I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, I'm forgetting those things which are behind and reaching to those things which are before. You will hear no more talk about the valley now that I'm up on the mountain, because I'm wrestling with what I see before me. I'm not wrestling now with where I came from. I'm wrestling with what is before me. Jesus is not who I thought he was. He doesn't look like I thought he looked. He doesn't feel like I thought he felt. He doesn't care about what I thought he cared about. Oh, I apologize to all the people I killed with the religion I used to have.
All right, y'all. All right, it's that time. Okay, I came in as early as I could, y'all. I had to do the great escape. You know what I'm saying? Because they was pulling me this way, pulling me that way. But anyway, thank you guys for coming in to my live, so that I could bring to you guys the full testimony of Cheryl Mack. She is actually done with the witness stand, unless it's something that I missed. Because I did have to take off, but she was done when I left. They brought in the next witness, and I believe, from my understanding, that witness did not fully get fully do her testifying. So I believe there has to be a cross examination. I don't know all the ins and outs. Like I said, I left. I got the individual name. She was the doctor, as I put in my community post for you guys to have the awareness and the updates on that. So, I just like to come in with something positive, so that way it can control the atmosphere and the environment of the platform. You guys gonna always get a little positive word. So y'all just have to bear with your girl. Maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5, maybe 10. Who knows? So anyway, without further ado, thank you to each and every one of you guys for coming over to my platform. I am your host, Hollywood Next, aka Sexy Pieces, Sexy Next, in the building, and I'm gonna bring to you guys the full rundown of the testimony. Okay, so you guys ready? I know y'all is. Y'all ready? Is y'all ready? Is y'all ready? Ready? Let me know y'all ready up in the chat. So anyway, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna start with the reading of Cheryl Mack's testimony. So it goes like this. Did you receive a subpoena to be here? And she said yes. Did you want to be here? She said no. How far did you go in school? She said college. What did you study? She said business managers. Did you work in talent? She said yes. When did you start And she said, in the later years of 1998, 1999. What type of work did you, what type of work did you get into? And then into talent. She said, I mean, what was your work like? I'm sorry, in talent. She said she scalped talent. She was a she managed talent. Did you start your own company? And she said, yes. Did you work with different artists? And she said, yes. Um, Government evidence exhibits, do you recognize this person? And I mean, exhibit one, do you recognize this person? She said, yes. Who is this person? She said, that's Robert Kelly. Have you met Mr. Kelly in person? And she said, yes. Do you see him in the court today? And she said, yes. Can you point him out? And she said, black suit. And then they said, well, there's a few in black suits. And then she said, second from the right. And then said, okay, he's been identified. Now, when did you first meet Mr. Kelly? She said in 2005. Where? In Nashville, Tennessee. Did you attend the 2005 MTV Awards in Miami? And she said, yeah. Did you meet Mr. Kelly there? And she said, yes. Do you recall when in 2005? She said, sometimes around the time of the Hurricane Katrina. How did you meet? She said, well, they was at a restaurant. There was a gentleman who said, we look pretty important. I had my talent with me. I said, she can sing. And then he said, well, no, they asked the question, who is the talent? What's the talent's name? She said, Sherry Hawk. Now, what happened next? The gentleman left. He came back and said, are you ready? And then he walked us to the back where he introduced myself and my artist to Mr. Kelly, or her talent. Did she sing for him? She did. Amazing. He asked her to sing another song, and she did amazing. He asked her to do another song. She did amazing. Um, during the encounter with the defendant, did you exchange numbers? And she said yes. What did you say? What did he say? She said, well, first he said, let me help you. If you don't get me, keep calling until you get me. What did he say about the talent? He said she was amazing. Did you call him? Yeah. What did you discuss? She already met him. We discussed getting her into the studio. Where? In Chicago. Did you go to Chicago? Yes. Where did you first meet at? Olympia Field Studio. Exhibit 502A and 502B. Do you recognize this? Yes. What are they? Olympia Field home. Is that where you went? Yes. After you met at the Olympia Field Studio home, did he end up working with Sherry? Yes. She collaborated on a song for his album. Did she stop working? Did she stop working for Mr. Kelly? Yes. Did you introduce other artists to Mr. Kelly after a period of time? Yeah. Showing witness only, exhibit 71, without saying the first name. Do you know this person? Yes. Is this the same person in 71A? Yes. Is this the true first and last name in 71A? Yes. Showing jury only. Now, during the purpose of the testimony, we'll refer to this person as Precious. Exhibit 71B. Same photo with Precious name underneath, put into evidence. Any objections? No objections. At some point, you was Precious talent manager. What was her talent? She was a R&B artist and rapper and singer. When did you manage her? In 2009. How old was she? 17 years old. What city did you meet? What city did you meet her in? Atlanta. Who was she with? Her mother. Would you be interested in meeting her? How did he respond? He agreed. Then they went to the studio in Olympia Field. After the conversation, who did you travel with? Precious and her mother. Was Precious still 17 years old? Yes. You, Precious, and her mother went to Olympia Field? Yes. Did anyone do an ID check? No. What happened when you met with R. Kelly in Olympia Field? She showcased her music for him. We went into the studio for more music. Did he agree to work with her? He agreed to work with her. He thought she was talented enough. He agreed to let us use his studio at the Olympia Fields. We started a couple of months later. Where did you travel from? Atlanta. Where was Precious and her mother living? Atlanta. Did Precious work out the resident studio? Yes. Where is Precious and her mother from? They're from Chicago. Where did she stay? At a hotel. Where? 2 miles from the Olympia Field studio. Who paid for the travels? Mr. McDavid. Do you know Mr. McDavid's full name? Daryl McDavid. What connections do what connections did he have to Mr. Kelly? His manager. So Precious and her mom lived in Atlanta when did Precious and her mama live in Atlanta when you met in Olympia Field? Yes, correct. They're from Chicago. Correct. While Precious worked at the studio, did she stay at a hotel near Olympia Field? Yes. You was based in Atlanta. Yes. Did you continue working with Precious? Yes. How did you do that? I was in and out of Chicago and other states. When you traveled in and out of Chicago, did you go to Olympia Field's residence? Yes. Showing evidence 72 without saying this person's name. Do you recognize this person? Yes. Do you know this person? First and last name? Yes. Jury only. Evidence exhibit 72A. Is that the photo of the individual true and last name? Did this individual go by a nickname? Yes. V. For the testimony only, we will refer to individual as V. How did you know V? I met her in Atlanta while looking for a songwriter. She was a pretty on the rise songwriter. Precious, she worked on Precious project we were working on in Olympia Field. What happened after you met her? She sent 16 songs. They were all good. Shared her song's writing ability to Mr. Kelly. Her and Precious met. She came immediately. How old was V? 19 years old. When she started working as a songwriter, 19. Where did she move to? Chicago. Where did she stay? Initially, she stayed at the same hotel with Precious. Then she stayed with Mr. Kelly. Objection. Overruled. Initially, she stayed at the same hotel. This is the judge saying something. Are you aware she moved somewhere else at one studio? Precious was working on a project at Olympia Field. Yes. She stopped at some point. Yes. As her manager, was you involved? No. It was abrupt. Yes. Did you speak to Precious about her stop working with Mr. Kelly? At some point, yes. Did you speak to Mr. Kelly why Precious left? Yes. What do you recall? He told me I needed to come to Chicago. When she left, everything happened so fast. He told me she was filing a lawsuit and I needed to pick a side. Pick a side? What that mean? Pick a team. Where were you when you got the call? Atlanta. Did you go? Yes. Where did you go? To Chicago. What happened? We talked about what could be going on with Precious. We talked about who is we, Mr. Kelly and I. What did he tell you? He explained that Precious filed a lawsuit when it was right around the time he was going to the World Cup in Soweto, and I needed to pick a team. I needed to pick a team, and people come up missing. He said, "Pick a team." Yes. What did he mean? Team Precious or team Mr. Kelly? What potential lawsuit about? Something along the lines of sexual harassment. You mentioned to go to the World Cup. He was going to the World Cup. The International FIFA, was he on schedule to perform? Yes. When you first started the conversation, where were you in the studio? Did the conversation move from location to the pool area? I don't recall. When Mr. Kelly said pick a team, what did you think it meant to you? I don't recall. How did you take the statement as a threat? How did the conversation end? After that, at some point, Arnold and I went inside. There's a pool table. It was late. Arnold said, "Come downstairs to meet in a car." Took me downtown. In the pool area, who suggested? Mr. Kelly. What did he suggest? He was working. It was late. Tom came in. How long after? It was a few hours. You mentioned Tom. Is that the same person in exhibit? Yes. Who is Tom Arnold? Is that a yes? Yes. Who is Tom Arnold to Mr. Kelly? I understand him to be an assistant. What did Tom say to you? Objection sustained. Where did you go after Tom came to the room? He drove me downtown. When you got into the car, when I got into the car, he took me to Mr. Jensen's office. What happened after you arrived? Mr. Arnold got me out of the car. Mr. Jensen greeted me. Who was he? Mr. Kelly's lawyer. We went into his office. What happened next? He explained there was a lawsuit. He asked me several questions. Did he reference who it pertained to? Yes. Who? Precious. Did he present you with any documents? Yes. Was it written out? Yes. What he asked you, was there questions? Yes. The questions were already answered. Did you read the affidavit before you signed it? No. Do you recall the questions? Maybe a couple of questions. What were they? I recall, did I see them perform sex? Who is them? Precious and Mr. Kelly. Was it typed document? Yes. Did you write any answers? They weren't answers, they were typed. Did you provide any questions? I don't recall. Did you circle yes or no? I don't recall. There was a question like, did you see Mr. Kelly give alcohol? It was a yes or no. I don't recall if I circled it. Did you sign it? I did. When you left the office, did you have a copy of the document? No. Where, if any, did you go after you left the office? To the airport. Where did you go? Back to Atlanta. Did you speak to Mr. Kelly? A period of time had passed a period of time passed when you didn't communicate with Precious or Mr. Kelly without telling me what you learned. You later learned the claim was resolved. In 2013, several years after the incident in 2013, did you reconnect to Mr. Kelly? Yes. As an executive assistant for Divine Stevens. Who is Divine Stevens? Entertainment manager in Atlanta. You were Mr. Stevens' executive assistant? Yes. Was you on his payroll? Yes. How is it that you reconnected to Mr. Kelly in 2013? Divine and I was having a discussion about doing something different. I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly would be a candidate. A candidate meaning he wasn't as active as normal in the music business. After you and Steven had that conversation, how did you reach out to Mr. Kelly? Through mutual friends. Divine and Mr. Kelly met at the friend home. We were all there. They hit it off, then we all worked. I don't understand the question. You testified a meeting at mutual friends' house. Did you and Steven work with Mr. Kelly? Yes. What type of work? Manager, also executive assistant? Yes. What type of things you and Mr. Steven worked on? Putting together tours. We worked on albums, kind of how we started. Did he have use of Mr. Stevens' basketball court? Mr. Stevens had built one just for Mr. Kelly. A basketball court? Yes. At some point, you transitioned from payroll exclusively for Mr. Kelly. Yes. What type of work did you do? Managed calendars, worked on projects, the album, worked with songwriters, put together tours, working just as aggressive as he was. What about hiring staff? Calling a new lawyer, hired a stylist that was immediately. Exhibit 44. Do you know who this is? Yes. Who? Linda Mitch, the lawyer at the time. What kind of lawyer? She's an entertainment lawyer. Did she hire any staff for Mr. Kelly? A bookkeeper named Joan Sullivan. Exhibit. Do you recognize this individual? Yes, that's Joan Sullivan. Is this the bookkeeper? Yes. Who is the stylist you hired? Cash Howard. Exhibit 86. Do you recognize who the individual is? Yes, that's Cash Howard. Is this the stylist you hired? Yes. You mentioned the bookkeeper. She overseen the book, most of the finances, close with Linda Mitch. It started as a bookkeeper. What company created RSK? When was it created? Mid to early 2014. Any other company? Bass Production. Sorry, Base Production. Did Daryl McDavid work? I don't recall. Mr. Stevens worked in 2013. What role did Daryl have at that time? I don't believe he was actively involved. Did you ever have discussions of Mr. Daryl McDavid? We didn't discuss Mr. Daryl. We didn't discuss Mr. McDavid working with Mr. Kelly in 2013. What changed on Mr. Kelly's living? He moved to Atlanta. Where was he staying at? A hotel. Did that change? Yes. How? Divine and I thought the expenses. He put in a couple of condos, the ultimately a home, and then ultimately a home. Did he buy or lease the home? He leased the home. Where was it? In Georgia, 405 Homestead Road. The hotel was an astronomical expense. Did Mr. Kelly have other people traveling? Yes. With him? Yes. Who was he traveling with? Uh, if mentioning wait. Who was he traveling with? He was traveling with, if mentioning a girlfriend, refrain from using the first name. His uncle Junebug, June Brown, his nephew, Dan, another gentleman, I can't remember his name, his security, any assistance, Michelle, I think her name is either Allen or Adeline, Diana, but I can't remember her last name. Showing exhibit 3. Do you recognize who this is? Yes. That's June Brown. What role did he have? He was Mr. Kelly's assistant. Did he travel? Yes. Exhibit 4. Do you know who this individual is? That's Junebug. Do you know his true name? I don't know his real name. What role did he have? I believe he was the assistant. Was he R. Kelly's uncle? That's correct. Do you know this individual? Um, I don't know if it's Van or Van. I keep getting it wrong. Sorry, y'all. I don't know his role. He's the nephew. Do you recognize this individual? Yes, that's Diana. What role did she play? She was a personal assistant to the house. Apart from employees' family, did any woman travel with Mr. Kelly? Yes. One moment, Your Honor. Exhibit 69B. Do you recognize this individual? Yes. What's her name? Dominique. Was she one who traveled to Atlanta? Yes. Exhibit 52B. Do you recognize this person? Yes. Do you know the nickname? Yes. What is it? Juice. Did you meet Juice's mother on occasions? Exhibit 531. Who is this? That's Juice's mother. Showing exhibit 72B. You testified about V, the songwriter. Did she travel to Atlanta? Yes. Sharing exhibit 8. Do you recognize this individual? Yes. Who is this? Gerald Jones. Do you know of a nickname? Blackie. What role? He was an acting manager during 2013. During a period you transitioned into executive assistants. Do you recall the latter years of 2013, early 2014? What did it detail? Can you repeat the question? How did it come about? What was the process? I would get a text from a potential traveler. In a text, I would ask for names, date of birth, departing cities. I would get the approval from Mr. Kelly in most instances. How did you pay? I would pay with a credit card. What credit card? The company's card. Anyone else had that company's card? Linda Mitch, Joan Sullivan. It was an RSK company credit card. Did you get often potential guest texts? Yes. There was a preferred travel company used by RSK regularly. They had credit cards. They had credit cards on file. Are you familiar with Black Panties Tour? What artists, Mr. Kelly? When did it take place? I don't recall. How did you travel on that tour? By flight? How did Mr. Kelly travel? By Sprinter. Any other tours he would attend? On and off performances, spot dates, random. Who would book? The agent would book an agent near a city he was in or just left. Were the spot dates? Did he have certain spot dates in 2015? Yes. Exhibit 75. Do you know who this is? Yes. Do you know the first and last name? Yes. Identify as Jane. When did you first meet Jane? April 2015. How? I received a text from her saying Mr. Kelly gave her my number. She to book a travel. Executive Exhibit 233C is a text message from you and Jane dated April 28, 2015. Then there's an outgoing text from Jane to you in response. She gave you her name. Okay, please send date of birth for the travel. Did she send her date of birth dated December the 30th, 1997? Yes. After you received her information, what did you do? I ran it by Mr. Kelly for approval, to approve it. Did you make travel arrangements? Yes. Exhibit text from you confirming American Airlines. You sent her confirmation number? Yes. Did you meet her in person? Yes. Where at? The Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. R. Kelly was doing a show. Where did you meet her at? In the lobby. What was she doing? She was checking into her hotel. I made sure everything went smooth. Do you recall if she attended the show? Yes. Exhibit 233G, text messages from you and Jane dated May the 3rd, 2015. 5875 exhibit. Do you know where the closest mall is? Now, this is my problem. The first thing she worried about when she get there is a mall. Like she got some money to spend. She know her little broke ass and I have no money. I'm just saying. Come on now. All right. Do you know where the closest mall is? You provided Mr. David Western Union. Your response, what time? She responded, now, anytime soon. You responded, stand by. You informed her getting a car service. Yes. Trying to figure out if Mr. Kelly, if you can't get it, I'll just stay in the room. That's what she said in the text. We need to make sure it's okay. What did you mean? She would need to get an okay from Mr. Kelly. Why? I don't understand the question. Were there rules in place? Yes. Mr. Kelly would have to approve it. On July 2015, did you travel to Connecticut where he performed at a casino? Using the first name only. Any female guest travel? Yes. First name, who do you recall? Jane, Joyce, Christy, V. Evidence Exhibit 78. Do you recognize this individual? Yes. Who is this? That's Joycelyn. In Connecticut, a casino, how many shows? 2 or 3 nights. Were there any shows in between? Yes, in New Jersey. Were you at the shows? Yes. After, were you in the dressing room? Yes. Who was in the dressing room? Security, majority of the staff. While in the dressing room, I don't understand your question. At some point, Mr. Kelly asked you to make sure others were in the dressing room. Yes. Who? Jane. You took steps to have Jane come to the dressing room. Yes. Where was she coming from? She was in the pit. What's the pit? It's an open area where guests could watch the show. How did Jane get from the pit to the dressing room? Someone would have to escort her, walk past security. Did she come to the dressing room? Yes. Who was in there? Me and men and women. What happened? Once she arrived, dinner was being served. Once she arrived, the men exited. Why? Can you repeat the question? Objection. Overruled. Generally, when Mr. Kelly guests are in the room, the men would leave. What protocol was in place? It was not acceptable. Who was in there? Myself, the stylist, Jane, and Mr. Kelly. Cash Howard. Cash Howard left the room. Then it was myself, Mr. Kelly, and Jane. What discussions did you have when? What discussions did you have when you, Jane, and Mr. Kelly was in the room? We talked about Cash's birthday and getting her a gift. It was a casual conversation about the show. Where was Mr. Kelly? Mr. Kelly was sitting on a high ottoman. He was sitting in a reclined position with his hands behind his head, sitting on opposite side. Where was Jane? She was sitting in a chair right in front. Did she engage in a conversation about the show? No. Other than text, did you speak to her when did you speak to her? We weren't allowed to commingle with the guests. Objection. Overruled. We're having a casual conversation, very normal. Jane sits across. She gets up, moves closer to Mr. Kelly. Did you see what prompted her to move? She got a little closer. We were discussing Cash's birthday. She moved in closer to Mr. Kelly. We were finishing up the conversation. What did you see? I saw her touch his leg like a massage motion. Then after that, she got closer. I started to gather my things to leave. This is not funny, y'all, but this shit is just crazy. I started gathering my things to leave. What did you see? I saw her move in closer. To who? To Mr. Kelly. Forgive me for laughing, please. I'm trying to be as serious as one can be. I saw her move in closer. To who? To Mr. Kelly. To his leg area. Describe exactly what you saw. This is crazy because somebody really sat here and said this stuff. Like, this is like, it's not funny, but it's just crazy. She was insinuating something, but it was not a fact. And it's just crazy that she would even conjure this up in her mind, and she really got on the stand and said all this stuff. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, y'all. To Mr. Kelly, to his leg area. Describe exactly what you saw. His body was reclined. I gotta get through this part, y'all. Please. I'll be writing this stuff down in the courtroom. This is not even funny. Oh my God. I know if I'm laughing, I know the jury is laughing out loud. Oh my God. Please, Father God, help me get through this reading without laughing. Please, Jesus, humble me, control me. I cannot do it without you, Father God. That's why I pray before I come on here. Now y'all understand me. Okay. I can see on my right side of me what part of his body. This shit is crazy. Please help me, Lord. Please. Oh my God, control me, control me, control me. Let me get off the camera. Maybe if I get off camera, I could do better. I have to get off the camera because I think it's the distraction knowing that I'm being watched by y'all. This is too much. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. I really got tears coming out my eyes. All right, let's start over, y'all. I can see on my right side. I can't get past this part. I can't get past this part, y'all. Please, I need help. Oh, oh my God. Oh, oh my God. I gotta get the laughter out of me. Please help me. I could see on my right side of me. What part of his body? His penis. Objection. Overruled. The head go down below. The head go down below the waist. Okay, next question. Why did you leave? It was my cue to exit. I was very uncomfortable. It wasn't my business. The next day I already started drafting my exit letter. We were at McDonald's. We were talking about Cash Howard birthday. Who? Myself, Mr. Kelly, Jane, Joan, Sullivan, Hammer, security, the DJ, and one other guy. Okay. I can come back now. I think I got that part out of me. Okay. Oh God, that was funny. Um, and there was another guy. What discussions you were having? We started a conversation of Cash Howard birthday. I was being accused of spoiling the surprise. What happened? At that point, he started yelling at me. He told me that she started crying. Wait. This is the part where she started crying. Hold on, y'all. She said at that moment he started yelling at me. And she said, he told me that. And then she said, and then at that moment she started crying, you guys. She said 1 second. And then she was like, I'm sorry. And then they said, who started yelling? And then she said, Mr. Kelly. Now, just so we are clear, the prosecutor clears her throat. I'm writing down everything. The prosecutor cleared her throat. We were having a discussion. Mr. Kelly was yelling, saying, I spoiled the surprise about what gift he was going to, what gift, what gift was going to be. And for whatever reason, he started cursing me. Then ultimately he said I needed to apologize to his guests for my behavior. He was moving the table. You stopped working for Mr. Kelly that day? Yes. You were in Connecticut? Yes. Where did you travel to? Home. During that time, you worked in 2013, 2014. Did he have you write a letter? I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Did he have you write did you write letters for Mr. Kelly? Yes. In what circumstances? An apology letter. Whose idea to write the letters? Mr. Kelly's. How did he tell you to write them? Do you know how many times? Once. At what? Whose direction? Mr. Kelly. What happened? I was being accused of booking agents and taking money on the side. He told me to apologize for it. I apologized for not telling him about it, about the booking agent. Paid me out of his own pocket money. Why did you write it? I was feared. Who would? Was you scripted? I was 1000% scripted. Why? I didn't want to have to deal with it, so I just kept writing, kept writing, kept writing. It was scripted. I was writing everything he said. Was Mr. Kelly in the room with you? Yes. Showing evidence, exhibit 424. Cheryl Mack's statement. Exhibit 424A. Is this your handwriting? Yes. Reading this letter. I'm writing you this letter to apologize to you. You recently discovered I took money from booking. Is this your signature? Yes. Then we took our 10-minute break. We came back. And then she said, I showed exhibit 424 through 424A for the booking agent. Yes. Who did you leave the letter with? Mr. Kelly. Did you obtain a copy? No. Exhibit 425, page 5 of documentation. Do you recognize the handwriting? I believe yes. Turn to the last page, exhibit 425. Is that your signature? Yes. You wrote more than one letter to the defendant? It was done the same night, she says. Here's what it reads. I'm writing to Rob, not to Mr. Kelly. I have insecurities. Who told you to write this? I don't remember that. Objection. Overruled. Do you recall any letters because of your insecurities? I don't. I showed you government 425. Now showing you government 424B. This appears to be a photocopy of what's in 425. It appears yes. Now showing evidence 426. Is this your handwriting? I don't recall. It does look like it does look like your signature. It looks like an old signature of mine's. Were you ever fined? I had a reduction in my pay. Why? Myself and Linda Mitch overbooking. It was overbooking. It wasn't the proper amount of money. He reduced our pay. My pay was nothing. And Linda, what happened? Whatever the numbers was, he felt like it should have been more. It was a spot date. He wasn't. He reduced our pay to offset. Mine was nothing. How long? About 6 months. Excuse me. 3 to 6 months, something like that. Divine Stevens had a basketball court at the house. Yes. A couple of games. Any of his female guests the time any of his female guests, the time of the guest was there. There, what was happening? There was a wall. They faced the opposite of the court. They faced the opposite side of the bleachers. You worked with Stephen Divine. He was successful. Objection. Did he ever reduce your pay in that manner? No. When you was the executive assistant, did you have responsibilities as security? No. When you worked as executive assistant, did he always stand up when he would come in the room? No. What did you notice about the girlfriends when he entered a room? They would stand. Then the direct was done. Now it's mechanic time. Y'all ready for mechanic or not? Okay. Oh, okay, we got through the most funny part and the stupid part and then just this whole thing. Now, you was just asked if Mr. Kelly would stand when he walked in the room. Objection. Overruled. And then the judge said, she can answer. No, that's not your testimony. No, he never stood up to greet me when I walked in. Did he open the door for you or others? Yes. Divine Stevens ever reduce your pay, but you left she said, can you rephrase the question? You work for Mr. Kelly, correct? You testified to the jury you left Divine to work for Mr. Kelly. Mr. Stevens and I worked together the majority of time. There was a time you was on Mr. Stevens' payroll. Yes. What time frame? 2013. There was a time you got on Mr. Kelly's payroll. 2014. You testified you went to basketball games. You saw Mr. Kelly female guests. You told the jury they was facing the wall. Were you in attendance when Mr. Kelly and Stevens? And then she said, I'm not sure. No, wait. When Mr. Kelly and Mr. Stevens was on the court, and she said, I'm not sure. I seen him on the court. He had a knee injury. Did you see him in the gym? I don't recall. You wanted to try to work for Mr. Kelly. Do you recall? You said at a time, Mr. Stevens and you tried to get him off the bench. It didn't mean you were trying to work with him. In the music business, in a literal sense, if Divine put his magic on it, who was Divine working with? Akon. Was Akon bigger than R. Kelly? Are you saying Akon was an A-list performer at the time? I'm not saying that. Canick says, may we approach? The judge says, no, we may not. Just very biased to me, my personal opinion. Did you testify you were pull him, Mr. Kelly? I don't understand the question. When did you start working? That was 2013, the later part. Didn't Akon leave Divine? I can't speak on that. Objection. Overruled. Do you know the answer to the question? And she said no. Divine represented. How long did Divine represent Akon? And she said she wasn't sure to her knowledge. Did he represent him last year? Not to my knowledge. I left the music industry in 2015. Objection. And then the judge said, she says she doesn't know. Next question, please. I mean, she's so rude. Other than Akon, who did you and Divine represent? He had a long list then, other than R. Kelly, just them. You tried to represent Mr. Kelly. We actually did. How long? My time was 1 year. You started working for Mr. Kelly exclusively. I worked as an executive assistant, but you was being paid exclusively by Mr. Kelly. Do you know if Divine was paid in 2014, paying you in 2014? You recall the letter you wrote on double dipping? You didn't use double dipping. Double dipping, is that the term you used to the government? I don't recall. The booking deal, you never spoke to Linda Mitch. It was Mrs. Jones who spoke to me first. It wasn't Jones who spoke to me first. It was Mr. Kelly. We were all working together. There was no side booking. Did someone accuse you of side booking? Objection. The judge says, I'm not sure if he is asking if it's double dipping or side dealing. You know what? I'll have it read back. Did someone accuse you of a side deal that was alleged? Was it by Mr. Kelly? It was false. I didn't ask you if it was false. When you and Linda spoke, it was in New York. Did you speak to the accountant lawyer? Objection. Judge says, are you the judge said, are you to me are you objecting to me? And then says, after a basis, put another question. When you spoke to Linda, was he was objecting to the basis, not to the judge. Now, when you spoke to Linda, was it in the office? No, it was at a cigar lounge or bar. You're confident. You asked if she spoke, not present. Mr. Kelly, Linda Mitch, Joan Sullivan in the room. Sullivan was non-verbal. Wasn't Cash Howard there? No, she was not. You wrote the letter. You have a bachelor's degree in 2015. You were pretty close to 50. So you 50 years old. Mr. Kelly made you write a letter you didn't want to write. How long how long you been in business? Maybe 10 years, maybe longer. I never, if you ever had to do it, you 50 years old with a bachelor's degree. Objection. You had a bachelor's degree of 10 years in business. Part of your education, you learned how to deal business deals. I learned in corporate America, you had the basic concept. You read documentation. When you read them, you know there would be consequences. Did you know? I wasn't thinking at all. You was apologizing for wrongful acts. I was apologizing for something I did wrong. I'm not asking you about your background. I asked that already. His people, his friend, people he knew was paying me out there on their own payment. They were paying me out of their own pockets. So you didn't apologize. You went to Jensen. He had an affidavit already prepared and you signed it. How old were you? Early 40s. You still had that business degree? Do you, he said, do you still have that business degree? You know it was consequences. You knew it was a legal document and you signed it as aggressively as I wanted to get out of there. Sidebar. And then the judge called a sidebar. She called a sidebar and then we went to lunch. And that's when I did my quick live for y'all. All right, coming back off the lunch. How long did you work for Mr. Kelly? 1 year, 2014, 2015. Was that the subtotal? The time I was being compensated? When did you have that situation at Mr. Jensen's office? 2009. So he called you and told you what year? 2010. You testified during the conversation. He asked you to pick a team. Yes. He told you people go missing. Yes. When was that? In 2010. He told you people go missing. You took that as a threat. You weren't in your teens. You were in your 30s. Did you quit working for him? I wasn't working for him at that time. Now, but you started working after. Yes. After the threat? Yes. Okay. You was no longer frightened. I had a partner. I didn't ask you that. When you started working in 2013, no pay. 2014 with pay until 2015, you signed an affidavit at Jensen's office. You have no recollection. Is that correct? Do you recall when that was? 2009, 2010. You've been at work for a while. Yes. You signed it. Where was home? Home was Atlanta. You flew back home to Atlanta, correct? Did you make a note about the affidavit you signed? No, I did not. You didn't put it in no type of notation. You've been in a business. You've been in a business a number of years. After signing the affidavit, you went to work for Kels. Is that correct? That's correct. Initially, I didn't get paid. How much were you paid? $10,000 a month. You was accused of working side deals, correct? But you continue to work, correct? You had a meeting with the lawyer. Was a lawyer with you? No. Was Mr. Kelly? No. You said you was by yourself? No. Do you remember saying you was alone? Yes. You told us about the gym installation. I don't recall. When did you start working with Precious? 2009. How long? Almost 1 year. When was the introduction? August 2009. Was that meeting in person? Yes. But I don't recall the year. When she worked for Mr. Kelly, did he tell her what to wear? She said, I don't have an answer for that. You testified Mr. Kelly did not allow you to have conversations with male employees. Can you repeat the question? If he didn't allow any male communication in his presence, correct? He didn't allow any male-female communication. You told the jury about the casino you saw happening in the dressing room. When you were first contacted by Jane, you saw Jane. Can you repeat the question? The night you were observing, the night you observed, I never said that. I never saw him get oral sex. Did you contact Mr. Kelly and say that was my intentions? In any point in time, did you contact Mr. Kelly about law enforcement? I filed a complaint with the lawyer. Is that law enforcement? No. You had a conversation earlier on. He told you Jane was 18. I don't have any knowledge. You told the government you quit because of the McDonald's scene. Objection. I quit the night before. You spoke to the agents about you quitting your work with Mr. Kelly. Did you tell them you drafted your resignation the night before? I don't recall. I sent it to my lawyer at the basketball game. Women were faced away and wearing sweats. Did Precious face the wall? She didn't wear sweats. Did Precious face the wall? She didn't wear sweats. I don't recall. Let's see if this refreshes your recollection. Read this. I'm going to show. When you're done, let me know. Have you read it? Does it refresh your recollection that you told the government Precious did not face away from the game? Yes. Does it refresh your recollection she did not wear sweat clothing? Yes. I asked you earlier if you recall Mr. Kelly telling you. The judge stopped that conversation, said sidebar. Now, the judge asked the jury to step out for 5 minutes or so. The judge asked the witness to step out for a minute. The witness said she was feeling faint. Now, the court's back in session. I asked you earlier at a point where Mr. Kelly told you Jane said she was 18. I don't recall. Did you ask Mr. Kelly at the Mandolin Bay who Jane was? Mr. Kelly told you Jane was a singer and she was 18 years old? No, she said she didn't recall. Let me refresh your recollection. Okay, I can't hear you. Yes. You asked Mr. Kelly who is Jane. Yes. The singer, 18. Okay. Does that refresh your recollection? Yes. Now, going back to the McDonald's incident, he told you you had to apologize to Jane. You said you wasn't gonna apologize. You went back to your room and left. You engaged in the attorney. I don't recall. In 2015, I don't recall that he said you engaged in the attorney. She said I don't recall. Was it 2015? She said I recall that vaguely. You say you engaged in the attorney. Is that Scott who? Then she said Brian Kaplan. You still have a lawsuit pending? And she said no. Did you? And she said I did it. I did. It was a complaint file. I don't recall the month. It was 2015. Now, were you involved with surviving R. Kelly? She said, I was not. He said, you wrote a manual script. She said, yes, I did initiate it. In that outline, you said Mr. Kelly could write a record better than he could spell his name. Judge, can I see the lawyers for a sidebar? When was it you wrote the outline manual script? I don't recall. Did you write it before surviving R. Kelly? Yes. You told the government you exaggerated. I'm not understanding your question. They asked you about the context. It was a proposal. She said it was a proposal. They asked about You said it was exaggerated. What was the proposal for? What was it for? It was looking, I was looking into a book opportunity. It was a proposal in lure of it being for sale. Yes, it was now hold on. It was salacious. It was a proposal. I don't recall. So it was a salacious proposal, but she doesn't recall. You wanted someone to buy it. It went to one person. You didn't think that one person would bite on it? Possibly. You don't recall the date for what? The proposal. Do you recall the date? Do you recall the year? Maybe 2010 or 2015. Do you have a recollection as of today? No. Lawsuit was filed October 2015. I don't recall the date. Are you asking the date the lawsuit was filed? I'll show it. All right. What was the name of the lawyer? Scott Hoops. Do you now recall the name Mel Hoops? What date? October 2015 of the claim. It was the date of a letter. See if you recall if it was the date of the letter or claim. It was the date of the claim. Canning asks the judge, may I have a second, Your Honor? And she says, sure. He says, thank you. Nothing further. Now they're on direct again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. On cross before lunch, you was asked about the work you Divine did together. Yes, the client list you had correct. Correct. One, you indicated Mr. Steven had a long list, past or present. In the past, Akon, T-Pain, TLC, a long list of Atlanta artists have he worked with, Jay-Z. I'm not sure. Is it fair to say Beyonce, Destiny Child, Tony Braxton, the list goes on. When you worked in 2013, you and Mr. Kelly was no longer living at the Olympia Field. That resident had been foreclosed. Objection sustained, because they try to throw his business out there as if that mattered. She's getting paid $10,000 a month. He had more than enough money to buy himself a house. That's just my personal opinion. $10,000 a month. That's mortgage on top of mortgage on top of mortgage. But anyway, you were asked a question on cross about your education and a different and an affidavit you signed in Mr. Jensen's. That was a few hours. Mr. Kelly said, pick a team. Was that in your mind when? And then it said, objection. And then it was overruled. And then she finished the question. At Mr. Jensen's office, yes. You testify you worked in corporate America. You worked for Mr. Stevens then, Mr. Kelly, correct? Any other business you've been in business where you employed, where your employee asked you to write a letter? What did you mean when you said you was alone, when you wrote those letters? Were you with Mr. Kelly? It started in 2010 when Precious exited. Did you ever do anything to make it public? No. You were asked about 2015 letters your lawyer sent. That was a letter, not a lawsuit. I've never filed one with the courts ever. Okay, you never filed a lawsuit with the courts, but you filed a lawsuit. So the game they was playing around that. Hopefully the judge saw through that. I mean the jury. And then the prosecutor said no further questions. Cannon came back and said, you were just asked about the meeting with you and Mr. Kelly. Were you by yourself when you wrote it? When the judge asked you when you were by yourself, I thought you meant with the lawyer. I thought you, and then the judge said, anything else to Cannon? And then he said, a little bit more. You said Mr. Steven worked with Jay-Z. And she said, I'm not sure. On what degree? On what project? He said, where? Were you involved with it and when? And then she said, he said, well, he already built his legacy. When you started working for Mr. Stevens, she said, I don't recall. You testified he worked for Akon, and then she said, an exception. What year? Could it be later? When did he work with Beyonce? He worked as a choreographer. He also provided. Were you with him when he worked for Usher, Justin Bieber? And then he says, isn't that the time he was working with, and then says, who was working with Mariah on a project? R. Kelly. And then she said, I don't recall. He said, working with Bruno Mars? Objection. Overruled. Do you recall he was working with Whitney Houston? How about Lady Gaga? Then the judge asked for another sidebar. Mr. Kelly was working with Lady Gaga. He worked when you just joined. That is correct. Nothing further coming from Candy. Now back on direct. Told you they was going back and forth. Um, you were asked on Recross about you being alone when writing the letters. Objection. Overruled. Did you tell the government I was with Mr. Kelly and no one else? Objection. Overruled. As you sit here today, do you recall when you told the government you wrote the letter? When did you tell the government that? I don't recall the exact date. My first meeting, as far as I recollect, showing the witness documents. When you find it, let me know. 2/16/2019. Then I put a side note. She's been in communication with the government since February 16th of 2019, y'all. She had her first communications with the feds, okay? And Kels wasn't even arrested at that time until July the 11th of 2019. So that was just a side note that I had for myself. Now, there was a Zoom meeting on July 30th, 2021. You had stated you recall that time where you said Mr. Kelly made made you write the letter where she was receiving. Mr. Kelly told me what to write. He was aggressive, asked you to change your numbers so none of his contacts could reach her. You was scared of him while writing, and then she confirmed it, and then they said no further questions. And then Cannon came back and said the letter was written 9 days before trial. You had a Zoom meeting on July the 30th of 2021. The trial started August 9th, 2021. No further questions. And that was it. Now, I'll get in the chat and see what y'all got going on. I love how he do. Sorry, Katrina. I love how Hollywood says objection. Thank y'all. Let's see. If you thank you, sister. $10,000 a month. Ungrateful. Okay, $10,000 monthly. He paid for it. Okay, empty brains. She can't remember no one. Exactly. Oh, I'm so blind, y'all. I can't. I need some glasses. I just need the light. That's all it is. See? Ooh, I don't know why I didn't turn the light on from the start. I'm just blind as a bat. She doesn't recall, but the lies done piled so high, she done forgot what she said. So every other answer is she doesn't recall exactly. Cheryl Mack was a hot mess. Yes, she was. $10,000 a month. She can't remember nothing. Exactly. I misspelled your name and Miss Legally Blind. Okay. So yeah, that was my notes. I just unpacked it. Now we're all caught up. There was another witness that they did call, as I explained to you guys, which was the doctor. Oh, excuse me. Now I can get some rest, and I'll deal with y'all soon. Okay. There was a doctor who did come after that, and her name is Dr. Dawn Hughes. She's a clinical forensic psychologist, and she studies human behavior. That was all I was able to get, y'all, because I had to come here and get here with these babies for Texas, baby. So let's see. Driver's license in New York. She remembered that $10,000 though, right? Yep. Driver's license. Let's see. Okay. Yep. So that was everything, you guys. That was pretty much all I have for y'all tonight. So I just didn't want to stay too long, but I think I got you guys out at a reasonable time. Let's see what else we got over here. Okay, so that's that, and that's that. And that's it. You guys is all caught up. That's a damn shame. She needs some Ginkgo biloba because her brain is shot. Doctor's license, something to say in New York. So yeah. Well, we'll have so much more coming this week. Can you see the expression on the jury's face? No, I cannot see the jury at all. The only part of the jury I could see is when they're walking in. You can literally see their faces, like doing like this, literally walking in. You can see all of their faces, and that's it. And they go right behind the where the audience would be at, so you cannot see the jury's faces. No, I cannot at all. I can't see their expressions or nothing. Thanks for the information. You're welcome, Mocha Chocolata. You're welcome. Tips loves too. Oh, you're welcome, Sunshine. You're welcome. You guys all are welcome. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that I just very intrigued about. I've been interested in this case from the very beginning, and I just wanted to, be there from the beginning to the end. And this is like the grand stage, where you get all the information you can gather and hear it all, see what you see. I get to sit in the front row though, so I'm like the closest to the screen versus the people that's in the back who like the supporters where I once sat at as a supporter. I sat in the very back with them. But now that I'm a part of the press, I actually sit literally in the front row seat. So it's a beautiful thing to sit in the front because I can stand up, I can look at the monitor. If I got to get closer to see any expressions on the witnesses' faces, I'm able to do that. Versus, sitting in the back, you can't move around, you can't do nothing. You got to sit there. I can interact with the other media, news reporters that are there. Some exchange notes with each other. Some may miss something and didn't hear something. They ask each other, "What was that person's name?" Or we interact with each other. So it's really um, a privilege and an honor to have the credentials to be able to gather up more information versus just what I would have gotten just sitting in the back as a supporter. I'm able to be more advanced on just learning the ropes of this whole process in the reporter's position and just everything. So it's different, but it's appreciated. I'm humble about the whole experience. I'm humble about being able to be there. Thanks to you guys. I couldn't have done it without y'all. Like I did a lot without y'all, but then y'all came in right when I needed y'all the most. So I want to say I thank you guys so very much for that. I know I'll be there all of this coming week. So I'm not sure if this case is going to end this week or if Canic is going to go longer. I'm thinking somewhere along the beginning of October. I was hoping the end of this week of the 24th, but I can say just the outside looking in, I highly doubt it. So I would just say if you guys want me to continue to bring this firsthand information to you guys, like I said, I'm in there gathering up tons of notes. Okay, tons of notes. This is not a game. This is all my writing, all my words, word for word, getting everything that I can get, crossing T's, dotting I's. I would just say do what you can to continue to support the channel, support the platform, so that I can continue to stay in New York and be right there in the midst of it all, writing it all, getting everything as verbatim as I can. I may miss a few things. I'm not perfect. I'm not a typewriter. It's not like I could bring a recorder in there. So, but I'm hearing everything and I'm on it. You know what I'm saying? From the objections to the overrule to the sustain, to them clearing their throats. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm hearing everything, and it's amazing to have this experience, and it's something that I will cherish literally for the rest of my life, because it's something that God put me in this position because of my spiritual connection to this case. And this is a spiritual case, it's a spiritual warfare, and I truly believe God is over all of this, and he has the final say in all of this too. And we can see what I'm seeing and how I present it to you guys. I don't see a RICO, I don't see a trafficking, I don't see people held against their wills. Not with everybody that's come in there and said, even she said in the end, no, her friend wasn't Precious, didn't wear sweats. Precious didn't face the wall, you know. So I'm just trying to understand everybody that has been testified has said he didn't lock nobody up. People was free to go. Lots of them left and came back on their own free will. You know, that's he had a lifestyle, and you know, it's like I said, it's not for everybody. It's some people can deal with a promiscuous lifestyle. Some people want some monogamous lifestyle. I myself want a monogamous lifestyle. I don't want to date somebody that's promiscuous because I don't want to share. I'm like, I want that intimacy to myself. I don't want to know somebody else is getting pounded on the way you be pounding all on me and bending that ass over and throwing it in a circle. I'm just saying, I'm a freak when I need to. I'm a freak in the bed, and I'm a lady in the streets and a freak in the bed. Shit, I'm just saying, y'all know what it is. This channel is not for the young. This is for the adults and the mature adults. Okay, so if you ain't mature and you ain't ready to hear about all this stuff, please don't come over here, because baby, we get out over here. We get out over here. I'll show it out now. I'll show it out for the camera. Oh my goodness. but but yeah, I just wanted to, like I said, bring that information to y'all. That's right, in my opinion, them juries looking up this trial because they want to know. Yeah, we know side eye is next. Oh my God, you guys are so cool. I swear I couldn't do it without ya. I'm grateful that a person of your caliber is there reporting the truth. I don't have money to support right now, but I'll definitely be sending you love until I have the fun. Don't worry about it, baby. That's all that matters, is the love is there. Everything else, God gonna work it out for the good, because he wants to make sure that, you know, this information does come out. There's lots of people reporting. There's lots of people, you know, not really, there's a lot of anti reporters, you know, and they are all around, and you can feel the heat, you can feel their negativity, like they're throwing their energy at you and they looking for a reaction. And I just been in a position to humble myself through it all, and I can't let what they feel distract me from what I'm hearing in this courtroom. They hearing the exact same thing I'm hearing. They seeing what I'm seeing. They choose to report something different. That's on them. You know, I know now that the media is a manipulator and that it is lying, you know, and I know the sources, I know the platforms to watch and the platforms not to watch, because I can see clearly that the same media that's in the room with me and they're not reporting this, I wouldn't want to support them. I think we shall boycott them, actually, and let's start promoting me and others that's out here bringing the fire and the truth, you know what I mean, and not sugarcoating anything for the viewers. Like, just tell the truth. If he's winning his case, he's winning his case. If he's losing, say he's losing. Like, I'm trying to see it from every angle. I mean, I see what when they're bringing their when they're presenting their case, and it sounds real good. It's almost like, I'm telling you, it's almost freaking believable at times, until the cross happens. And then when the cross happened, it's like, well, when this happened? You was just saying they was locked in the room and they was doing this and they was doing that, and now you get a question asked a different way. Oh no, they wasn't locked in the rooms. He didn't even say escape. I said escape, and he repeated me saying escape. So it's like, I mean, where's the consistency? In order to convince me, you got to show me. And what I'm seeing in there as a show me is innocence. I don't see the guilt in this case, you guys. I just don't see it. Definitely they're lying. Definitely. God has angels all around you. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much as well. Media is lying. The media is the one that's doing it for the money. The media is saying anything negative because they're the ones that want the payment. They say he guilty, and when you're innocent until proven guilty. So, you know, it's everybody that's come there change their story, and it's like, if you tell one story to one person, you should be able to repeat the same story no matter who you talk to or how they ask the question, how they try to ask the question in many different ways. Your consistency should stand firm through it all. And unfortunately, they don't have the consistency. And for me, if you guys been following my channel, you know I've been very consistent in everything that I say and everything that I do about this case and pretty much my life in general. I'm a very consistent person. I don't care how you try to spin it, how you try to rephrase it. The answer gonna always be the same. 2 + 2 is 4. There's no way you're gonna tell me it's 5 or it's 10 or it's 9. It's 4. So when they can't do that, then that's an issue, But again, the Canic is gonna go on Monday after they finish with the last government witness. From my understanding, I will give you guys updates again. Make sure you're following my platform over at Hollywood Team Next channel. I'm using that community area since I'm not monetizing this channel. I'm not putting a community post here. I may do it at a later time, but right now I'm just kind of like trying to just focus on what's happening in the courtroom and bringing it all to you guys. So that's where you guys can get all of my community information at, and that's what I have for y'all. Thank goodness you and others want something. I didn't miss that one. You stood 10 toes down since day one. Yeah, through the fire, through it all, I'm still here. Wasn't never going nowhere. I wasn't wavering. I wasn't bending. I wasn't breaking. I sure wasn't gonna fold. I'm too solid for all that. So sometimes you just gotta walk away from certain things and let God clear the path. And once He makes it clear for you, then nothing can stop you. So right now my focus is very focused, and I'm thankful and I'm honored to be here to give this information to you guys. So with that being said, y'all, that was my time. Thank you guys so much. I was your host, Sexy Pieces, Sexy Next. I will see you guys on the next one, bringing it to you guys live and direct from New York City. So stay tuned. So much more to come. Also, dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever doesn't love does not know God, because God is love. Now I'm gonna leave y'all with a 5-minute sermon. Please enjoy it. Stay to the end, and God bless each and every one of us. See you guys on the next one. Pieces.
On your way to the top. Standing at the bottom of the mountain looking at the top, it sure does look different. So Jesus led them into it. He doesn't give it to them all at once, because it would be culture shock to take you too fast. So He doesn't beam you up. He lets you see where you haven't been, and then He takes you step by step. Thank God for the steps, because if you got there too fast, you couldn't make the adjustments. Your body might go into shock. Your mind might implode. You might crumble up under the pressure you're exposed to. So every step, He introduces it to you gradually, so that you don't faint along the way. I would have fainted had not I believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Lord, I thank You for the steps. I thank You for the steps. I thank You for the steps. I do not despise the struggle. Thank You for not giving it to me too fast. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I underestimated how hard it is to be what I saw. He pulled them apart by themselves. He led them up to the tops of the mountain. And there He lets 3 out of 12 see the kingdom. They get to see the kingdom. They get to see who Jesus really is. They had walked with Him and ate with Him and talked with Him. They had no idea who He really was. They knew of Him, but they did not know Him. Because who He really is revealed in the high place. You cannot know him in the valley, but as you go up to the high place, he reveals his splendiferous glory, his wondrous grace, his phenomenal essence, his divinity. It's in the high place. My God, it's in the high place. First of all, with when you are chosen, you will forever be pulled apart. Try all you want to fit in with the 12, but you were meant to be in the 3. The truth of the matter is that when God gives you glimpses, he sets you apart. Not for elitism, not for superiority, not for arrogance sake, but because of the uniqueness of your path, you can never be common in your associations. So don't think that the miracle begins at the top of the mountain. The miracle begins down in the valley when he called the 3 from the 12 and said, leave the rest of them to operate on this level, and I set you apart. Some people don't pass that test. They are not willing to leave the pack. They prefer the associations with the familiar than the sacredness of following that is divine. Living life is lonely business. It really is. We grin, we giggle, we smile, but it's lonely business. Because if you're really going to follow Jesus, he's going to call you apart by yourself. Everything big that ever happens to you that you go through, for the most part, you go through it by yourself. Even if you lose a loved one and all of the family grieves together, we don't grieve alike. And we didn't all lose the same thing. What I lost is different from what you lost because what I had was different from what you had. And ultimately, you face that grief by yourself.
Happy birthday, Blessed.
So I don't want you to think that faith is just proven on the mountain. Faith is proven in the valley. It is the faith proven in the valley that makes you eligible for the mountain. If you're not willing to leave the 12, then you cannot see the 1.
Recount.
I think a lot of times people see things, but they don't look into what they see. They see on such a superficial level that they don't understand the dichotomy that occurs in the human soul when your situation is elevated above your mentality. This is the struggle of being called up. The struggle of being called up is to think on the level of your calling. Just because you have a degree and a big office doesn't make you professional. You can have all the accoutrements that are necessary to function on this level, but all the cravings to live on that one. Imagine being stretched between 2 lovers. That is before me and that is behind me. He called them apart by themselves.
God bless y'all.
The truth of the matter, if you be honest, everybody who's ever gotten an upward call